Hello everyone, Nubkeks here, and in today's video we're looking at our final Druid spec here on the Shadowlands beta. It's the Restoration Druid. Of course, if you want to see those other Druid specs, they're already up on the channel, and we've covered all the other classes except for Rogue, so you can check all of those out. Of course, Rogue is going to be coming in the next few days if you want to see that. But without any further ado, let's just dive right in and let's check out the Resto Druid. Alright, and here we are in game, everyone. As always, we're going to begin the video by looking at the baseline rotation, the basic gameplay of the spec, in this case the Resto Druid. Then after that, we'll do the section on what the new abilities for Resto are, and the reworked abilities, new talents, Legendaries, Covenants, blah blah blah, all that good stuff. Find the timestamps in the description and on the timeline and all of that. So, Resto Druid, this is the final healer that we're looking at, the last one, the very last one. And the Resto Druid is really all about healing over time. That's how you're going to make stuff work. I'm going to point us towards our mastery, actually, to start us off, right? Where your mastery is going to increase the healing of all of your heal over time effects from Restoration by, again, in this terrible gear, this awful gear, it's going to give me 7% more healing for every heal over time that I put on the target with my Resto spells. So the more heal over times that you stack up, the more you get out of them, which is cool. Our basic heal over time, I guess one of the most important ones, we've got Rejuvenation. They're all important, but Rejuvenation. So this is instant cast. Cast on the move. It's going to heal for 1,800 over 15 seconds. We have, that costs 1,100 mana. We've got this spammable flash heal equivalent, which is Regrowth, where you're going to heal a friendly target for 1,800 and another 500 health over 12 seconds. And the initial heal will have a 40% increased chance to do a crit if the target is already affected by the regrowth heal over time. So that sort of benefits you for spamming regrowth onto people as sort of a more upfront immediate heal. We have another heal over time then called Life Bloom. You can only have one of these out at a time, only on one target. It's going to heal the target for about 2,300 over 15 seconds, and when it expires, or when it's dispelled, or if you refresh it in the pandemic window, it will instantly heal the target for 1,200 as well. So this is our strongest heal over time, but can only have one out. So most of the time, keep it rolling on your tank, I guess. For our AoE healing, then we also obviously you can multi-hot with your heals, but we have Efflorescence for 1,700 mana. You will grow a healing blossom on the target location, restoring 252 health to 3 injured allies within 10 yards every 1.8 seconds for 30 seconds. You can only have one of these out at the time. That's the Efflorescence. Sorry, this is the Rejuvenation. This is Regrowth right here, and this is Life Bloom. All the green effects, right? And then another AoE heal is Wild Growth. This has a 10-second cooldown, costs 2,200 mana, so it's expensive, and 1.5-second cast reduced by haste. You will heal up to 6 injured allies within 30 yards of the target for 1,200. Well, okay, it just went down because, of course, our mastery is dropping. Hang on there. Let me get rid of this. You'll heal all injured allies, or maybe I had a stat proc, I don't know. 6 injured allies within 30 yards of the target for 1,000, roughly, health over 7 seconds. The healing will start high, but then will go lower and lower over the duration. So this will do a ton of healing, but it's obviously an AoE. And yeah, there you are. Another crucial heal that we have, this is sort of our nuke heal, is Swift Mend, okay? So Swift Mend now has a 15-second cooldown, instant cast, and it will consume a Regrowth, Wild Growth, or Rejuvenation effect on an ally. It will just destroy the hot, but instantly heal that ally for 3,700. So of course it's going to heal for way more than any of those heal over times would do. And that's going to give you that big nuke of direct healing. And yeah, I mean, that's your very, very core healing kit as the Resto Druid. So you're typically speaking, you're going to keep Life Bloom always up, usually on the tank. If, your team are going to be taking some light damage, you can pop rejuves on them. If there's going to be lots of AoE damage going out, you can start throwing out the Wild Growth as well. You'll usually keep Efflorescence running, again, usually under the tank and the melee group. And then when you need to do more spam healing, you can start spamming out regrowths. And of course, if you regrowth someone who has the regrowth hot, it's going to do even more. And the more hots that you stack up on the same person, the more it's going to heal them for. Another couple of bits then that obviously tie into that very, very core rotation. Let's look at the sort of healing cooldowns first, then we'll look at the damage stuff after. So for healing cooldowns, Iron Bark, this is your external. It's now 1.5 minute cooldown. You will reduce the damage the target takes by 20% for 12 seconds, and it also increases the effectiveness of your heals on that target, your heal over time effects on that target by 20% for 12 seconds. So it's the best tank external in the game. It's a really short cooldown. And the bonus healing over time effect is really nice as well. Tranquility, this is your big raid cooldown. You'll channel for 7.4 seconds. You'll heal all allies within 40 yards for about 3,200 health. And each heal will also stack a heal over time, and that heal over time will stack up and up and up. It increases. It does double healing as well when you're not in a raid, so this will do a lot more healing in a party, which is awesome. You can see the heal over time here, stacking up, stacking up, stacking up. And obviously these heal over times will be, you know, more, all the healing will be more powerful based off of, again, the mastery, right? So the more mastery effects we have out, the more powerful this will be, blah, blah, blah. You also have Innervate, which you can infuse a friendly healer with energy. So you can put this on one of your friendly healers. There's, you know, a new effect we'll touch on in the What's New section that makes you want to do that. But at least if you're a solo in a party, you can put this on yourself. It is on the GCD. However, it will give you, effectively, if you use it on yourself, it's like roughly 10 seconds of mana-free spells. So you can spam your heart out and not run out of mana, which is cool. And yeah, right. The other core things. Oh, actually, I'll cover Nature Swiftness in the What's New section because that is totally new. For core damage spells, you've got Moonfire, which is a single target damage over time effect. You've got Sunfire, which is an AoE damage over time effect with a short duration. And then you can spam with Wrath, which is just going to do some single target damage. And then obviously you could shift into Bear form, where you will have Mangle for some single target damage and generate some rage, and you'll be much tankier in bear form, as you can see from the tooltip. You also have access to Iron Fur, get some armor, you know, cat form for some more damage. There's more spells here than there should be because I'm in Feral Affinity. I think by default you have Shred, which is like a single target damage thing. I don't think you have Swipe, actually. No, you don't. I think you just have Shred, Ferocious Bite, and Dash, so big movement speed, 60% move speed for 10 seconds, cat form. Shred is single target damage, and Ferocious Bite is single target damage. And yeah, then a couple of other bits. Stampeding Roar is in the What's New section. You do have a Battle Res, which is wonderful. You do have Ursol's Vortex by default as a Resto Druid. You put down a Vortex of Wind, it will slow enemies by 50% in the area, and the first time they try to leave the Vortex, it sucks them back into the center, so that's good. Of course, you have a normal res and a group res. And you can dispel magic, curse, and poison effects. Lots of dispels. And, oh, I forgot to say, you can also soothe, so you can dispel and rage effects, purge and rage effects offensively. And, yeah, you also can spam Entangling Roots. And then I think the rest of the stuff is new. Oh, your main defensive for you, is Bark Skin. You take 20% less damage for 12 seconds on a 1-minute cooldown. That's your personal defensive. And, oh, Hibernate. Put enemy beasts and dragon hint to sleep. I think that's everything. Quite a lot of little tools here in your toolkit. Obviously, travel form as well for move speed. Lots of little tools. Very fun. All about those heal over times. That's the Resto Druid. Alright, well, what spells are new for the Resto Druid, and what baseline spells have been reworked here in the Shadowlands? Well, the first thing, coming from your PvP talents, this is now a baseline spell. It's Cyclone. 1.6 second cast. No cooldown on this whatsoever, only a 20-yard range though, but you toss the enemy target into the air, disorienting them, but making them invulnerable for up to 6 seconds, and only one target can be affected by your Cyclone at a time. So if you played any PvP at all, ever, in WoW, you'll probably be familiar with Druid cycloning you. This is now a baseline thing. So wonderful to bring that into PvE. It may not be useful all the time, but certainly this could be something you could throw out to, you know, if there's a dangerous mob, you could stop them. You could probably stop mobs bolstering with this in Mythic Plus, which could be even more utility for Resto Druid, which is insane. You could, in an emergency, use it to interrupt a spell cast on a mob in Mythic Plus. Again, if something enrages, like let's say there's 2 mobs that enrage and your tank's in serious danger, you could soothe one of them and cyclone the other one and cyclone it again after that expires, then soothes back off cooldown, soothe it when it comes out, and you're very, very safe. So some certain definitely plays that can be made, but this one's pretty cool. Nature's Swiftness also returns as a baseline spell. 1-minute cooldown, instant cast off the GCD. Your next Regrowth, Rebirth, or Entangling Roots is instant, free, and castable in all forms, and will heal for an additional 100%. So, I mean, most of the time, I suspect you'll use this for just this, a really beefy instant cast Regrowth, which is going to do a ton of healing. But it's also nice that you can use it for instant Entangling Roots, maybe more of a PvP thing, I suspect, and you can use it for instant rebirths. So that could be useful in an emergency. Your tank goes down, Nature Swiftness, Rebirth, get that tank up insta, and hopefully save the pull. So kind of cool right there. Another new thing, it's crazy that they're giving more, I can't believe they're giving more utility to Resto Druid, the king of Mythic Plus, the best healer for Mythic Plus for BFA, but they're doing it. Stampeding Roar is baseline now as well for you, coming from the Guardian and Feral Feral Druids, because why give them unique utility when it can go to the Resto Druid instead? 2-minute cooldown, let loose a Wild Roar, increasing the movement speed of all friendly players within 15 yards by 60% for 8 seconds. So that's going to be really nice in Mythic Plus. Skip around the place. It could be really nice to chase people down in PvP or escape from people in PvP. And obviously, you know, raid movement. This is now something that you bring to the raid. So fair enough for the Resto Druid. Not, you know, the top healer in raids and BFAs, for example. So that's a nice little bit of extra utility that you can bring there, which is cool. And yeah, then we've got a couple of tweaks to your existing spells. The first one is Iron Bark in BFA. This was a 1-minute cooldown that gave 20% damage reduction. They have increased the cooldown to 1.5 minutes, but they've baked in, I believe, an old talent here, which is going to increase your heal over time effects on the target by 20%, while Iron Bark is up for those 12 seconds. So I think this is actually kind of nice. You know, it's a nerf in the way with the cooldown increase, but it's also a buff in the heal over time effect benefit now as well. So I think you could take it or leave it. I'm not sure whether you consider this an overall buff or nerf. I might even lean towards thinking it's something of a buff. It's still a really good tank external. It's still the shortest, basically, tank external. I guess you have like Holy Priest with the right talent can get their Guardian Angel down to, I think, about like 1 minute 10 seconds or 12 seconds or so. But I mean, it's a really low cooldown tank external. It's probably enough to keep them safe, and the extra healing you're going to get out of it, I think it's still really strong. So I don't think you're going to complain about the Iron Bark change too much. And then Swift Mend has been reworked. Where is it? There it is, Swift Mend. So as you can see, Swift Mend is very cheap. It's like half the cost of a regrowth. But what it does now has a 15-second cooldown. That's down from 25 seconds, so it's 15 seconds. It will now consume a regrowth, wild growth, or rejuvenation heal over time to instantly heal an ally for 3,740 health, again at this particular gear level. So this is essentially a massive single target nuke heal. It heals for a substantial chunk more than it did in BFA and has a much lower cooldown. It does have the downside of consuming one of those heal over times, but I mean, it's going to do way more than that. Like, if you consume a rejuvenation halfway through, you're going to lose 900 healing, but you're going to do a big chunk 3,700. Or like the regrowth heal over time effect isn't that strong. And wild growth, obviously, you know, it's a relatively short heal over time, only for 7 seconds. So if you consume that, not too bad. Like, you can throw out wild growth and then snipe someone with a Swift Mend a second or two later if your party's in danger, and it's going to be pretty nice. So, yeah, it's good. It won't consume Life Bloom, so that's good. You don't have to worry about that. Won't consume, like, Cenarion Ward if you take that or anything. I think it's good. Very satisfying to press. And yeah, with it being a shorter cooldown, that's another really great thing to add to the healing toolkit that you've got there. It's worth mentioning that your shapeshift spells have slightly changed too. So for the bear by default, you now have obviously Mangle, but you have Iron Fur is default for the bear. And for the kitty cat, I mean, I've got cat affinity, so that's why I've got all these abilities. But you now have Shred and Ferocious Bite are the defaults for the cat, okay? So that's your default for the cat. We'll look at the actual affinities. Sorry, my nose is itchy. In just a second here. First, we have to cover the leveling perks. So actually, believe it or not, Resto Druids get 5 leveling perks. Most other classes get 4, one at 52, 54, 56, and 58. For whatever reason, they decided Resto Druid's going to get 2 perks at 52, nothing at 54, 2 perks at 56, and 1 at 58. So that might slightly change before this goes live. But right now, that's how it's working. The first thing you're getting is Regrowth Rank 2. This is a big change to how your regrowth is going to work, I guess, where your initial heal for regrowth is going to have a 40% increased chance to crit if the target is already affected by regrowth. So this is really going to encourage you to spam regrowth on a particular target. Once they have the heal over time, the actual direct heal becomes a lot more powerful. So it's going to reward you for some of that sort of spammy single target healings. That's nice. Interfate's getting a rank 2 at level 52 as well, where you will infuse it. So you can use this obviously to infuse yourself or infuse an ally. The new benefit at level 52 is rank 2, where if you cast this on somebody else, you will gain Interfate at 50% effectiveness. So essentially, you give your friendly healer 0 mana cost on all of their spells for 12 seconds, and you'll get half mana cost on all of your spells for 12 seconds. So it's kind of a win-win. Basically means that in the raid, you're always gonna interfate, or you really should always innervate another healer. So yeah, there you go. Innervate rank 2 to really encourage that playstyle. Level 56 then. Yeah, level 56, you're going to get Entangling Roots rank 2, where Entangling Roots will survive 20% more damage before breaking. So that's obviously very good for PvP for sure. And you're also going to get Iron Bark rank 2, which is the bonus 20% from HOTS for the 12 seconds that Iron Bark is on them. So that you get at level 56. And then at level 58 is when you get Nature's Swiftness, right? So you get that at 58. And there you go. There, your healing, your bonuses for leveling. Let's go check out the talent changes. So your talent tree has a few little tweaks in it for sure, with some different abilities going baseline or being baked into the new affinity sort of system. So let's check them out. The first big thing here is Nourish. This was formerly a PvP talent, I believe, and maybe had a slightly different effect, but this has come back to you now. Nourish, it's 1,800 mana, 1.8 second cast, and you will heal a friendly target for 2,100, and it will receive triple bonus from Mastery Harmony. So it's maybe a little bit strange. Like if you compare it to a regrowth, it's costing, roughly speaking, the same amount of mana as a regrowth. You can see it is slower, 1.4 second cast on regrowth, versus, if I take Nourish here, a 1.8 second cast on Nourish. It's noticeably slower. It will heal for a bit more than regrowth will directly, but obviously regrowth has the bonus crit chance and regrowth applies the heal over time. This doesn't do that, but it does get the triple bonus from Mastery Harmony. So I mean, if let's say I stack up a whole bunch of spells on myself here, let's get all my HOTS on here and let's see how much this will heal for. Will I actually get to see it? I'm not sure if I will. We just heal for 4,300 with that Nourish, which, you know, that's a lot. That's a lot with my terrible gear. It's a massive single target heal. I mean, it's not quite, it's just slightly more than a Swiftman in that case. So yeah, I certainly think it's a bit odd. It's a little bit odd because it essentially fills the same role as Regrowth does, right? Where you're gonna, you know, with Regrowth, you're gonna stack all your heal over time effects on somebody, and then you're gonna spam them with Regrowth usually. Nourish kind of does the same thing, so I'm not sure exactly what the purpose of this is. It's a little bit weird. But anyway, that's in there, so you can let me know what you think of Nourish. Maybe you guys are figured out like an even better use for it. I guess maybe at loads of mastery it really starts to stand out. I don't know, but yeah, it's an intriguing one. At level 30 then, this is where we've got several big changes. The affinities have all been tweaked and now include their big utility abilities. So with Balance Affinity, on top of getting obviously the range effect, right? You're also going to learn Typhoon now as part of the Balance Toolkit. So Typhoon being your 30-second cooldown AoE frontal knockback, which is extremely useful, of course, for Mythic Plus, for PvP, for every sort of content, really, really nice. With Feral Affinity, you're going to get Rake Rip. Rip is Feral Affinity. I think this was baseline before, now you need Feral Affinity for that. Swipe, but then the crowd control effect here is Maim. This is a combo point spender that will do a 5-second single target stun at 5 combo points. So you get Maim with that, which is definitely the weakest one. With the Guardian Affinity, you get Incapacitating Roar, which is a 30-second cooldown AoE incap for 3 seconds. So it's like an AoE stop, just interrupt spellcast, etc. So yeah, you got some tough choices to make here for sure. I think you definitely have tough choices to make. So like in Mythic Plus, for example, the best damage output would come from Feral Affinity, but it does mean that, you know, Maim is okay, but you're not going to get access to the Typhoon. So Balance Affinity might see a bit more love. Just stay at range and you know, go into Moonkin form when you want to do more DPS and get access to that Typhoon. That could be pretty good. Guardian Affinity is actually pretty enticing as well, giving you an AoE stop and obviously that tanky effect. So definitely mixing up how you're going to approach these affinities, and maybe cat weaving won't be as dominant as it was before. It's definitely something to keep an eye on. Obviously the effect for Resto for the other specs is Ursul's Vortex. You get that baseline as Resto, and they have to talent into it with the Resto affinity. Level 35 then, tying in with the affinities, we have a new talent or a returning talent called Heart of the Wild. This has a 5-minute cooldown. And you can use this to empower your chosen affinity for 45 seconds. So for Feral, it's going to increase the damage of my Feral abilities by 30%. And critical strikes with attacks that generate combo points will generate an additional combo point. So really boosting up the DPS I can do with Feral Affinity. With Balanced Affinity, it's going to increase the damage of my balance abilities by 30% and make Star Search instant. And you do get eclipses and stuff like in the Balanced Affinity. Like you get all that stuff. It's cool. And then Guardian Affinity, Bear form will give you 20% additional stamina on top of what it already gives. Multiple uses of Iron Fur may overlap, and you'll have 2 charges of Frenzied Regen. So you become substantially tankier. So I think there's an absolute ton of plays here. All of these are really good for Resto. They all work, and you'll get lots of use out of them. So like Heart of the Wild with Guardian Affinity is a massive defensive cooldown. May be useful sometimes in PvE, but an absolute standout for self-survivability in PvP. It's going to be incredibly hard to kill you through that. With Feral Affinity, it's really, going to up your damage output. So Feral Affinity Heart of the Wild becomes a very strong DPS cooldown. With Balance Affinity, likewise, it becomes a very strong damage cooldown. So all those sorts of gameplay are useful. So interesting choices to make on the Resto Druid, and really awesome ones at that. At level 40, Soul of the Forest. This has changed, obviously, with the new Swiftmend. So it's going to make Swiftmend increase the healing of your next Regrowth or Rejuvenation by 200%, or your next Wild Growth by 75%. So lots of different uses you can have with that. You know, either get the extra nuke instant healing of Regrowth, get the more sustained healing out of Rejuvenation, or get the group healing out of Wild Growth. Interesting choices. And of course, with Swiftmend now being a 15-second cooldown and being very, very mana efficient, playing around this could actually be a very, very core part of your toolkit. So I think that one's pretty cool. Competing with Cultivation, giving you another heal, another mastery stack as well with Cultivation, passively, or giving you the big cooldown of Incarnation. So interesting choices on the level 40 row, I think, for sure. Level 45, I think this is our final big change. Yeah, it is. Overgrowth is a new talent here. So this is a 1-minute cooldown, costs 3,000 mana, so it is expensive. And you will apply Life Bloom, Rejuvenation, Wild Growth, and Regrowth Seal over time effect to one particular ally. So this is a massive boost of single target healing. Obviously that competes with Spring Blossoms and Inner Peace. I would say, broadly speaking, what you're looking at is, Inner Peace sort of stands out more for raiding. Spring Blossoms is more consistent healing and raiding, or Mythic Plus. Maybe Inner Peace could be useful for Mythic Plus. Overgrowth is probably the one that you're more so going to be inclined towards in PvP. Like, obviously, if a team wastes like their purges or whatever, or you need to emergency heal someone, I think Overgrowth could be a good call. It's going to give like all of those heal over times. That's really, really nice. Or again, Mythic Plus, maybe you even want this in Mythic Plus for a big boost. I'm not sure. It's so expensive in terms of mana. But it is certainly an option. Big 1-minute cooldown, so that's a cool new talent. And yeah, they are the changes to your talent tree. Yeah, I like it. I think it's cool overall. I think generally speaking, you've got some improvements there for sure. And I really, in particular, love all the changes to the affinities. For your Covenant abilities then, let's check out the Covenants. First, let's check out the Kyrian. Their signature ability is the Summon Steward. This little pal will come over. He's going to give you a Phial of Serenity, which is essentially just a bonus consumable. 3-minute cooldown will restore 20% health and remove all diseases, poisons, curses, and bleeds affecting you. So that's fantastic. Obviously, you can remove several of those already, like the curse and the poison with Nature's Cure. But you can't remove bleeds or diseases, so that's quite nice. Obviously, it's going to be really good as well in PvP. And just an extra big chunk of survivability in PvE. They're making sure that there's lots of those effects in dungeons and raids, so it's going to be pretty good. Your Covenant ability for Resto Druid then is called Kindred Spirits, and this is one of the most complicated ones in the game. So, first up, you have to choose a partner to bond with. So you choose an ally and form a bond with them. That bond form has a 2.3 second cast. It doesn't have a cooldown though. You can cancel off the buff and switch the partner around. And then what it does is it will give you another button called Kindred Focus, which is a 1-minute cooldown, which will give you a 10-second buff for you and for your partner based off of your rolls. So in this case, as a healer, as a Resto Druid, you are going to give your partner the healing benefit. So you are going to replicate 30% of all the healing you do and put it onto your partner instead. So again, like let's say in Mythic Plus or whatever, or in Arena, you're going to put this on your tank or one of your allies who's going to be focused down, who's going to be taking lots of damage. And then every 1 minute you can activate this to essentially be like a beacon of light, right, from Holy Paladin. Is essentially what this is like, to put that onto your ally, and 30% of the healing you do will go as a bonus to them. So even if you're healing them, it will replicate 30% of it as a bonus. So I think that's really awesome, actually. That's really, really nice. Now, you obviously are going to get a benefit back as well, depending on their specialization. So if you put this on another healer, like in a raid or a battleground or something, you'll get the same thing. 30% of the healing they do will go to you. If you put it on a DPS, 30% of the damage they do is going to go to you as bonus healing. You'll add that 30% of the damage, their damage, onto your healing. You'll get that as a bonus, which is really cool. If you put it on a tank, the tank is going to suck up 40% of the damage that you take until they fall below 20%. So it's kind of like Blessing of Sacrifice from the Paladin, right? It's what the tank does onto you. So kind of negative for your tank, right? You know, kind of bad for the tank. Like, okay, they get the Beacon of Light style effect, but then they're sort of forced to Blessing of Sacrifice you back, which obviously could be very good. So lots of different sort of plays you can make with this one. I love the flexibility of it, the versatility of it. What precisely do you want to use it for? You know, yeah, pretty much that. Like, what are you going to use it for? What's the best use? Lots of different ways that you could use this one. So I think that's quite fun, quite a nifty Covenant ability. The conduit for this one is called Deep Allegiance, where you can make Kindred Spirits cooldown be reduced by 10% or up to 24%. So in other words, you can make that 1 minute cooldown down to about a 45-second cooldown. When you're on your own, by the way, if you're all on your own EOs, you can activate it and get 15% more healing for 10 seconds, which is fine, I guess. Though I don't know if you're particularly strapped for healing in solo content. But anyway, if you are, there it is. Next up, we have the Night Fae. I'm sorry, my nose is so itchy. Please forgive. Please forgive. Your Night Fae signature ability is called Soul Shape. This is a 1.5 minute cooldown. You turn into a Vulpin, teleport 15 yards forward, and increase your movement speed by 50%. This lasts for 12 seconds, or indefinitely in a rest area. And as you can see, the button then becomes this spell called Flicker. So I can reactivate this for another 15-yard blink. So you get like, I think you get an extra 3 of these out, or something like that, within the actual buff, which is nice. So a big extra mobility cooldown, which is pretty good. You know, I mean, you already have, you know, dash and cat form gives you movement speed anyway, and you've got travel form. So I don't know if it's super important as a druid, but hey, it's another, you know, it's a mini blink and another movement ability if you need that. Your Covenant ability for the druids, unfortunately, did just get nerfed. Got nerfed in the yesterday in the beta patch, but it's still pretty cool. Called Convoke the Spirits. You're going to channel this for 4 seconds. Has a 2-minute cooldown, and it's going to do an eruption of energy. It will cast 12 druid spells over those 4 seconds. So 12 semi-random ones. So it's going to do Wild Growths, Swift Mends, Moonfires, Wraths, Regrowths, Rejuvenations, Rakes, and Thrashes while you are in human form. So if you're in human form, it's going to do that. Obviously, it's going to prioritize the healing ones. So for example, if I do this right here, you can see all this stuff is popping up. It actually did a flourish. Oh my, it did a flourish? Wait, what? It didn't say it does that. Apparently I don't know if that's supposed to do that. We're discovering things here. Wait, what? That just did a flourish. That seems insane. Wait, what? Okay. All right. Well, maybe this is amazing. Well, it's already amazing. So, I mean, it's going to do a bit of damage, right? It's going to help you multi-dot. Obviously, if you're in melee, it's going to do more Rakes and Thrashes. Rake is a single target dot. Thrash is an AoE dot. Pretty nice. Pretty cool. If you go into bear form, it's going to do different stuff. You're going to mangle, do Iron Furs, Moonfires, Wraths, Regrowths, Rejuvenations, Rakes, and Thrash. So it's going to be a bit more damage focused, but also get out some Iron Fur. So it becomes a defensive cooldown in bear form. In cat form, it's going to do Ferocious Bites, Shreds, Tiger's Fury, which obviously you don't have access to default. That boosts up your damage and gives you energy. It will also do Moonfires, Wraths, Regrowth, Rejuvenations, Rakes, and Thrashes. And Moonkin form is one of the big ones where it can... well, actually, I need to... Hang on. This will take a second because we got to leave combat. Convoke the Spirits puts you in combat with like everything in the testing room there. It's ridiculous. Let's test out our Stampeding Roar. Let's get back quickly. Wow. Wowee. Moonkin form. Please let me test the Covenant ability. It's going to do Star Surge, Star Fall. That's the biggie. Moonfire, Wrath, Regrowth, Rejuvenation, Rake, and Thrash. So certainly what we found with the other Druid specs was that Starfall is so absurd in terms of its damage output. In fact, let me show you right here. It's so absurd in terms of its damage output. If you want to use this for damage, you want to use this probably in Moonkin form. It's kind of insane, right? So we check this out. We're just going to go. We're going to blast here. We're going to blast. Pew, pew, pew. So the damage is, it's racking up. It is racking up. Yes, it is. And obviously, if you combo this with like Heart of the Wild or something like that, or there's a Legendary, you're going to do even more damage. So you're going to do a massive chunk of damage with this. It's very cool. Or, of course, you can mostly use it as a healing cooldown in human form. Like especially spamming out those Swift Mends is going to do a ton of healing. So a really powerful one there. Very cool, very fun. Even in its nerfed state, it's awesome. The Conduit is also awesome. While channeling Convoke the Spirits, your damage and healing are increased by 12%. That goes up to 28%. Obviously, that's fantastic because as a Resto Druid, your heals are most of your healing is in healing over time. So yeah, all that healing over time is going to be powered up and empowered by that while for those 4 seconds while you channel, which is also fantastic. So really good. Or also up the damage even more. So really, really strong. We have the Venthyr Covenant next. The Venthyr Covenant, their signature ability is Door of Shadows, 1 minute cooldown, 1.5 second cast with a 35-yard range, and it is a point and click teleport. I want to teleport over here. I'm over here now. Kind of cool, right? Extra mobility. Lets you skip over dangerous mechanics, etc. I think it's kind of nice as a Resto Druid to have that option in mobility. Like you can, when stuff is really going down, shit's getting crazy, you can sort of stay back and be spamming out those heals, and then you can like move over, like catch up with the boss fight or whatever afterwards. It's kind of nifty, so not too shabby. And maybe some skips in Mythic Plus, though. I mean, you could sort of stealth pass as a Druid anyway, so I don't know if it matters. But Ravenous Frenzy then is the Venthyr Covenant ability for the Druids. A 3-minute cooldown for 20 seconds. Druid spells you cast increase your damage, healing, and haste by 2%, stacking. And if you spend 1.5 seconds idle, the frenzy will overcome you, consuming 3% of your health per stack, stunning you for 1 second, and ending. So a big negative to this one. Very dangerous if you stop doing anything, which is something of a risk, I suppose. Although being at range, you should be safe. I guess just be careful if you do use this with like cat weaving. You go into melee and you get like stunned or something like that, or incapacitated by a mob. That could be mega dangerous, and obviously it's extremely dangerous in PvP. Like I don't think you'd use this in PvP at all. That seems so risky. There is a conduit for this called Endless Thirst, which is going to make Ravenous Frenzy increase your crit chance by 2% per stack. That goes up to about 4.8% more crit per stack. So if we show this one off here, obviously I'd say before I show it off, I say the big thing with this, the standout thing would be to combo this with your Incarnation Tree of Life, which is your 3-minute cooldown. That's basically the deal with all of the Druid specs, is that this is extremely good when you combo it with their Incarnation talent, because they're all big 3-minute cooldowns. It works well with all the Druid specs like that. So anyway, Tree of Life, in case you don't know what it is, 3-minute cooldown, become a Tree of Life, do 15% more healing, bonus armor as well, and immunity to polymorph, whatever. But it's going to make your rejuvenation, wild growth, regrowth, and entangling roots better. So I mean, if we show this off, this lasts for 30 seconds. So we'll do something like, we'll go into Tree of Life. Here we go. So it's going to make wild growth hit more people. Rejuvenation is going to be stronger. Regrowth is instant cast, which is fantastic. Then we're going to go into this thing, and that's, I guess, one of the nice combos is we go with this. And I don't know, we're just going to like throw stuff out here. We don't even know what we're doing. We're just going to spam our spells. We just want to see what sort of stacks we're going to get here. That's all. Just seeing what sort of stacks we're going to get. I'm just spamming. I don't even care really what I'm casting. We're actually going up to about 13 stacks so far. Just spamming those regrowths. 15 stacks. We got about 15 stacks. About 15 stacks in there. So yeah, gives you a rough idea of what sort of stacks you might be looking at. I mean, 15 stacks. That's about 30% more healing and haste towards the end of that. That's a lot of healing and haste towards the end of Tree of Life, which is already a decent cooldown. And obviously, 15 stacks would be also 30%. Or actually, with this, that'd be 15 times 5, right? Which is, that's 75% crit chance at the end, which is kind of nuts. So cool. You could also use it as a damage cooldown. You know, you could combo that with Heart of the Wild, with like Balance Form or Feral Form to really start churning out some mega damage. So good potential with that Covenant ability, that's for sure. Looking at the Necrolords, then finally, this one is also really good, I think, for Resto Druid in particular. But Fleshcraft is the signature ability. It's a 2-minute cooldown. You channel for 4 seconds and form a shield that will absorb 20% of your maximum health for 2 minutes. So it's doing like 4,000 damage absorption right now, which is nice. If you channel it near a corpse, you can claim the essence to grow the shield up to 50% of your maximum health. The more corpses and the stronger corpses, the better. Obviously, with the Druid, you go into Bear form, which does give you 25% bonus stamina to make this even better, which is nice. So yeah, I think it's pretty nifty. Certainly in Mythic Plus, going between difficult Mythic Plus packs, you could, pop into Bear form, generate a big old shield on the previous pack you just killed, and go into a boss fight or a tough fight with a nice shield, which could be really useful. Their Covenant ability then is called Adaptive Swarm. So this one sort of forms part of your core rotation. It's only a 25-second cooldown, only 500 mana, instant cast. You'll command a swarm that will heal for 1,500-ish or do 1,400-ish shadow damage over 12 seconds to a target. And it will also increase the effectiveness of your periodic effects on them by 20%. And when it expires, it will jump to another target within 25 yards and bounce between friend and foe up to 3 times. So let's say I put this on my tank. It's going to heal the tank for 12 seconds, jump to an enemy, jump back to a friendly player, jump to an enemy. So you're going to get 2 doses of the heal out of it and 2 doses of the damage out of it, depending, so long as it has targets that it can jump to. So this one will attack me and kill me. If I put it on this guy, you'll get to see it ticking down. needless to say, I think this is really, really nice for the Resto Druid in particular, because as the Resto Druid, much like the Guardian Druid, but even more so, this suits you better than all the other Druid specs because you care about damage over time effects and you care about healing over time effects. I mean, needless to say, healing over time, that's your bread and butter of how you're healing. So getting that on the tank or whoever, that's going to really up the amount of healing that person is getting, which is awesome. You can get 2 of these at the same time. Also, in terms of my damage over time, loads of my damage over time is coming from Moonfire, Sunfire. Those are damage over time effects. If I go into Cat Weaving, I'm getting loads of damage from Rake and from Rip in particular. So loads of my damage is damage over time. Loads of my healing is healing over time. And this works with both of those. So yeah, I think this one is fantastic for Resto Druid. And oh yeah, the Covenant Conduit for this is Evolved Swarm. It will increase your periodic effects by an additional 6%. That scales up to an additional 14%, which is very powerful. So yeah, I mean, I think you got a tough choice here. You got a really tough choice as the Resto Druid, what Covenant that you want. You have the Necrolords giving you the very short cooldown thing that's going to up your damage and up your healing. It's going to do damage and healing, boost your periodic effects, and you can sort of play around it. Very much part of your core rotation. It's just giving you a constant small benefit. In competition, or very much on the opposite side of the spectrum from that one, is the Venthyr, which is going to give you the big 3-minute stacking mega buff CD, which is really gonna it's gonna supercharge your 3-minute cooldown. Probably run that one with Incarnation, Tree of Life most of the time, I would think. But yeah, again, it's not part of your core rotation. It's a very big 3-minute cooldown. The Night Fae is a 2-minute cooldown, which is also a big burst cooldown. And it's going to give you a very immediate benefit. You're going to do a ton of burst healing or a ton of burst damage in that 4-second channel every 2 minutes. Feels really, really good. Just a big burst cooldown, which is something that you do quite lack otherwise as a Resto Druid. Or then the Kyrian, where you can choose which ally to empower. And then every 1 minute or every 45 seconds with the Conduit, boosting up that power, having that beacon of light for a lot of extra single target focused healing, and also, you know, take the damage from your damage dealers as bonus healing for you. Make your tank start soaking up some of your damage, or get extra healing from one of your healers. Certainly an interesting choice. I don't think any of them seems particularly bad. I mean, they all seem really good. Like maybe the Kyrian one seems, unless like that single target healing in the tank is really good. I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit the weaker one, but honestly, they all seem really good. It's a tough choice. They're all great. For your legendaries then, as a Resto Druid, you have 4 general legendaries available to all the Druid specs, and 4 spec-specific legendaries for you as the Resto Druid. Of course, at the start of Shadowlands, you can equip 1 legendary at a time, so choose wisely in terms of which one you're going to build first as well. The first one to look at here is the Circle of Life and Death. Your damage over time effects deal their damage in 25% less time, and your healing over time effects do it in 15% less time. So this one obviously works incredibly well for the Resto Druid. Like I already mentioned, you're doing a lot of your damage through your dots, through your Sunfire, your Moonfire, and your bleeds in cat form. That's a ton of damage. That makes it happen faster, which is great. Also, obviously, all of your heals nearly are heal over time. That's going to make all of those happen faster. It's really going to up the stress of your rotation. To actually maintain your heals or your dots is going to take a lot more work when they're going off faster, but it's going to up the throughput. So certainly a very interesting one for Resto Druid. It works really well. The next one is the Draft of Deep Focus. When Moonfire, Rake, Rip, or Rejuvenation are on a single target, their effects are increased by 30%. So this one is obviously very much just single target focused and is very reliant on cat weaving. Like the only way you get access to Rip is with Feral Affinity. So if you do not have Feral Affinity, I really don't see this one being that useful. But certainly on a single target boss fight, this could be good. Like if you're going to be doing single target boss like Tyrannical Weeks, maybe. More so I'd say in raids, if you're doing a single target boss and the healing requirements aren't that high, this could be a good one where you could pop into cat form, maybe run at Heart of the Wild and really get some good damage out of your cat form on that boss. If you're able to maintain high uptime on the dots, that could be good. So yeah, potentially strong, but quite niche. The next one, these next 2 are very cool, and they're all about shapeshifting and sort of multi-specking as the Druid, which is awesome, multi-rolling. So the first one is like Kara's Fleeting Glimpse. Every 45 seconds while in combat, cast a spell based on your form. While you're in your normal form, in human form, it's going to auto-cast a Wild Growth, so a free Wild Growth every 45 seconds. Not amazing, but not terrible. It's the other benefits which start to get exciting. If you go into cat form, it's going to do a free Primal Wrath. That is a talent for the cats. They need to talent into that. And it's a combo point finisher that is going to apply Rip in AoE. and it's untarget capped right now. So that could potentially be a very, very big damage increase in Mythic Plus every 45 seconds. Track this with a weak aura when it's about to come up. Pop into cat form. Make sure you're positioned near the mobs. And bam, rip on all of them. And it's going to do a ton of damage. In bear form, it's going to do a bark skin for free. So that's a very powerful defensive. Could be good. Could be good. Perhaps I think it's a little bit awkward to use that because this is happening every 45 seconds. You can't control when it happens. So will your defensive be needed on that 45 second? I'm not sure, but it still could be good in PvP. In Moonkin form, this is a biggie. You get Starfall for free, which is insane. Starfall, as we saw earlier, does a butt ton of damage right now. It's also untarget capped. So being able to just pop into Moonkin form very briefly if you're expecting to balance affinity and get a big Starfall, which otherwise you, by the way, don't have access to. Only Balance Druid does. That's a ton of damage to add to your toolkit. That is very low effort, so that's really good. Or then go into Traveler form for Stampeding Roar in combat, which could be good. Again, that could be very useful sometimes. And yeah, it's just wonderful legendary, really interesting. It's just so creative in how you can use it and what you want to use it for. So I love that one. Maybe even better, though, is the Oath of the Elder Druid. This is going to passively increase the effects of Thick Hide, Astral Influence, Feline Swiftness, and Ysera's Gift by 75%. You have Ysera's Gift, obviously, of course, as a Resto Druid, which is going to heal you for 3% max health every 5 seconds. Pop this thing on. It's going to heal for 5% max health every 3 seconds. But it also affects, obviously, your affinity bonuses. So Astral Influence, default, giving you 5-yard extra range. Feline Swiftness, 15% move speed. Guardian Affinity is giving you 6% damage reduction. Pop this thing on. That goes up to 8 yards extra range, which is not that good. Feral Affinity, though, you go up to 20%, 26% move speed. So you can see this is my normal speed. I'm just zipping around here. I am super fast. I am really fast. If I go back to balance, you can see it's going to slow down. Slow down. And now we're fast. We're fast as fuck. So it's quite fun. Or then Guardian Affinity, you get 10% damage reductions. That's an extra 4% always on damage reduction. On top of that, you will also get to activate Heart of the Wild for 10 seconds every 1 minute whenever you shift into your affinity form. This is obviously fantastic with Guardian Affinity. This becomes a very powerful extra defensive cooldown where every 1 minute I can pop into my bear form and I'm going to get that extra 20% stamina, get 2 charges of Frenzied Regen for those 10 seconds, and overlap multiple stacks of Iron Fur. That's awesome. Really good for PvP. That's going to make you very difficult to kill. Or if you want the defensive in PvE. Obviously, I think the big ones are going into Balance Affinity, where it's just going to up your damage, or Feral Affinity, where also it's basically just going to up your damage. So essentially means, again, the appeal would be in Raids or in Mythic Plus in particular, or even in PvP when you want the damage. Every 1 minute, it's an extra big burst cooldown, essentially. Just swap into that form and blast for those 10 seconds, which is pretty cool. I tried it in the dungeon, and it felt pretty good, I think. For your Resto-specific legendaries, then, there are 4. The first one is the Vision of Unending Growth. Rejuvenation Healing has a 2% chance to create a new rejuvenation on a nearby target. So this is a very passive one. You're not really going to interact with it more. It's more for raiding, I would say, where there's lots of raid damage, and a random rejuvenation is probably going to be useful. It's just a bit of extra passive healing, so it's fine. Not the most exciting thing, though. Memory of the Mother Tree is next. Wild Growth has a 25% chance to cause your next rejuvenation or regrowth to apply to 2 additional allies within 20 yards of the target. This one's a lot better, I think. This one's a lot better because, it's not the best chance in the world, but it's still an extra burst of healing. We'll see if we can trigger it. No, we didn't trigger it, but yeah, it should give you a buff, so it should be fairly obvious when you have this one and you can plan around it a little bit. I think it's going to be a nice extra chunk of throughput in the dungeon, specifically like using it on regrowth. I think it's nice for an extra big burst of healing. So that's going to be pretty nifty. Extra group healing in dungeon, not too bad. Verdant Infusion is next. Swiftman, this one's really strong, right? Swiftman will no longer consume heal over time effects, but will instead extend the duration of your heal over time effects on the target by 10 seconds. So this one's kind of nuts. So one particular interesting combination is I can spec into Cenarian Ward, right? And actually, I need to also put this on me. Oh, go quickly. If I do this on myself, oh shit, I didn't proc the thing. Oh, I'm an idiot. I need to take damage first. But you can extend the duration of Cenarian Ward. Let's try again. Let's hit something that will hit us back and do damage. But yeah, it extends the duration of all heal over time effects. It should also extend Tranquility. Like all sorts of things should be extended by this. It's quite funny. So like I'm just gonna put all my heal over time effects on myself here. Let's go. or most of them. Gonna smack this guy. Hit me back. There we are. Bam. You can see I now have 16 seconds of Cenarian Ward. How good is that? That's so much healing, dude. It's so much healing. That's nutty. So I don't know. They might remove that interaction. That might be too much. But this is really good right now. Obviously, needless to say, it's really good for healing. Swiftman's on such a short cooldown as well. You're gonna be able to get this up like a lot. So yeah, that's really good. Cenarian Ward being the particular synergy, but of course it's gonna extend all your heal over time effects. So you can stack those all up on a target, smack him with the Swiftmend, and not only will it no longer consume the heal over time, but it's gonna make them all better. It's very good for some really strong single target healing. They might remove this because it does seem a bit nuts. Or maybe that's the point. I don't know. Anyway. Final one here then is the Dark Titan's lesson. You may Life Bloom 2 targets at once, and Life Bloom's final healings increase by 100%. So this is obviously also really good because Life Bloom's a very strong heal over time. And with Photosynthesis in particular, you might be pushed towards with this one. That really ups the benefit as well, where, again, while they're on allies, it keeps having that 4% chance to bloom and do more healing, which is really, really good. So that's fantastic. You can have 2 of those up. Wonderful. Or alternatively, again, you could have one then still on your tank. You can have the Life Bloom on the tank, but also have it on yourself. Your periodic heals will heal 20% faster. So it lets you sort of make sure you guarantee the sort of the Life Bloom healing, the benefit of Photosynthesis on yourself, but also not giving it up as a tank or like someone taking big single target sustained damage, not giving it up in that sense. So also I think a really, really fun legendary. It should also proc, of course, your Omen of Clarity more often, where healing over time from Life Bloom has a chance to give you clear cast and making your next regrowth free. It should proc that a lot more often as well. It should proc that more often because you got 2 of them, right? So pretty good. So there you are. I think a very, very good set of legendaries for the Resto Druid. You know, maybe this one's a bit weak, but you know, Circle of Life and Death is interesting for more damage and healing. I absolutely love these ones that emphasize the benefits of shapeshifting and getting free extra damage out of your shapeshifting, which really appeals to the Resto Druid, which can put heal over time effects out on their party and then go and do damage while the heal over time effects are doing their job. And then the rest of those specific ones, you know, you got a few ones that sort of generically increase your healing, which are fine. They're fine. They do their job. Not the most exciting. But then you have a couple of very exciting ones here. Get 2 extra Life Blooms out and all the gameplay that can cause. Or then the big one here, Verdant Infusion, where Swiftmend becomes a much more thoughtful part of your rotation that really ups your single target throughput on somebody by giving massive heal over time. So yeah, good options with the legendaries. They're good. They are good. For your Conduits, as the Restoration Druid, these slot into your Soulbind trees. You should see an example of a Soulbind tree in the background there, and the sort of path you can take through it, and the slots you'll unlock along the way. Endurance slots will boost your survivability, Finesse will boost utility, and Potency will boost your damage or healing. First up, let's look at the Endurance ones. There are 3 right now. Toughest Barks, the first one. Bark Skin's cooldowns reduced by 10%. That goes up to 24%. That makes Bark Skin about a 45-second cooldown, which is awesome. More defensive, pretty good. Ursine Vigor is next, and this one's really good too. For 4 seconds after shifting into bear form, your health and armor are increased by 12%, scaling up to 28%. So a very nice one, certainly for PvP, I think, in particular. That's going to make you very tanky in PvP. Whenever you go into bear form, you're going to be super tanky for those 4 seconds, which I think is great. Innate Resolve, then, the final option here. Regrowth and Frenzied Regen healing is increased by 12% on yourself. That scales up to 28%. So kind of a nice passive benefit, right? You know, not too bad. Regrowth is one of your main sources of repeatable, spammable healing. So being able to do more on yourself is not bad. This one, I think, again, is particularly good for PvP, where you're more inclined to spec into Guardian Affinity and get access to Frenzied Regen. And like Heart of the Wild, or the legendary that gives you Heart of the Wild, gives you more charges of Frenzied Regen. That could become very good for... like if you're expecting to be the focus target in PvP, I think this Conduit could be very nice for self-survivability. So it's a pretty decent one, I think. For the Finesse Conduits, there's 4. Born Anew is the first one, with Rebirth granting the target 50% move speed for 8 seconds, and giving them Well Fed, giving 20 primary stat for 1 hour. It goes up to 48 primary stat. Not too shabby. I'm not sure you'll want to give up a Conduit to help out a teammate, though. You're already helping your teammates out plenty as a healer, so maybe we skip that one. Front of the pack is next, where Stampeding Roars, radius, and duration are increased by 15%. That goes up to 36% more radius and duration. Not too bad. Could be very good for Mythic Plus if that's going to... You could potentially be relying on Stampeding Roar for your skips, for your strategies, like a skip with Rogue Shroud, for example. Could be very good for that. or it could just be a generally useful thing. Could be a reason good in some raid fights as well, where Stampeding Roar could again form part of your raid strategy and just ensuring that you're going to grab everybody in the raid with that buff and that they'll get good use out of it. That could be worthwhile. So possibly a decent option sometimes, which, you know, that's good. If a Conduit situational, that's pretty decent, I think. Born of the Wilds is next. This one is pretty nice, I think, for Resto. It will reduce the cooldown in Mighty Bash, Mass Entanglement, and Heart of the Wild. So that talent tier, reduce them by 10% up to 24%. Heart of the Wild, though, is the standout one for sure for the Resto Druid. The other ones may be good for PvP, but Heart of the Wild being that 5-minute cooldown, this could be great. This could be really good to lower that one down and really help you burst, just do more damage really in Mythic Plus. That would be the big appeal. That's the thing that immediately jumps out to me. Do more damage in Mythic Plus, or again, you know, oftentimes you got raid boss fights which are 5 minutes long. Heart of the Wild being 5 minutes, you only get one cast. This could lower it down enough where you get 2 casts out, and again, really contribute a lot more damage if you're not needed to heal at that particular moment. So I think this one could be solid. And finally, we have Tireless Pursuit, which is definitely a PvP looking one, where for 2 seconds after leaving cat form or travel form, you retain their movement speed bonus. That goes up to about 5 seconds after leaving cat form or travel form, retain the movement speed bonus. Kind of nice for some world questing with travel form, that's for sure. But certainly for PvP, you know, switching into cat form, running around, kind of nifty. Maybe okay for Mythic Plus, actually. Maybe okay for Mythic Plus, because you are cat weaving. Give you a bit more movement speed to dodge some abilities. Could be nice if you find yourself in a sticky situation in cat form in melee. There's nasty area of effect things going off. You can dodge them easily while spreading your instant cast heals. Could be pretty good. Finally then, we have the potency ones for the Resto Druid, where there are 4. Flash of Clarity is first. Clear cast regrowths will heal for an additional 20%. That goes up to about 50% more healing. That's fantastic. More on the spot healing. Very, very nice. That synergizes well, of course, with the legendary we saw. That gives you the ability to apply 2 life blooms to two different targets, or 1 life bloom to 2 targets. I don't know. I've made that more confusing than it needed to be. Anyway, you'll get more clear casts with that legendary, so it's going to synergize well here. Okay, that's all we need to say. Floral Cycling is next. Swift Men's healing is increased by 30% of the consumed heal over time effect. That goes up to 72%. Again, not too bad. Not too bad. It's going to make it feel a little bit better. I don't think you'll really play around this one much. You can't choose which heal over time it's going to consume. As far as I know, maybe it has a priority system of what it consumes. I don't know. It's okay. I don't think it's you know, it will add up to a bit more burst healing. It's fine. Probably not as exciting as it sounds. Ready for Anything is next. Nature Swiftness cooldown is reduced by 10%. That goes up to 24%. So it's going to turn that 1 minute cooldown into a 45-second cooldown. I think this could feel substantial compared to the last one. Nature Swiftness is a very reliable burst of single target healing by just giving you that instant double power regrowth. I think that's very good. So yeah, I think this one is nice, giving you that more reliable Nature Swiftness. Also nice for more instant entangling roots in PvP. Not too bad. So I like that one. And then finally we have Unstoppable Growth. Wild Growth's healing will fall off 30% less over time. That goes up to 72% less. So this one also is very nice. That's going to yeah, not bad, right? It's just going to make the wild growth healing be stronger. Stronger wild growth. I guess, you know, it's not, again, the most exciting thing in the world, but it's just going to increase wild growth healing, and that's good. So there you are. You know, relative, somewhat basic conduits for the Resto Druid, but all, I think, effective in their own little way. So there you go, guys. That was our look at the Resto Druid on the Shadowlands beta. Is it any good? Is it any fun? What do I think of the spec? Well, I was very happy to get to play this spec on beta. Resto Druid has been one of those specs that I've wanted to play for an awfully long time, but never actually sat down and really got into, because I just didn't enjoy the other Druid specs all that much. I feel like this is going to change though in Shadowlands, particularly because I really enjoyed Balance when I played it. I love the reworks they put into Balance. But Resto Druid, I mean, needless to say, it's a fantastic healing spec. It's really good. It's an awful lot of fun. You got a few very unique things happening as a Resto Druid. Being all based around healing over time is really unique. It's really interesting, and it lets you sort of pre-plan for damage quite a bit, which I think is quite cool, and I just love the theme of it. But even more importantly, an awful lot of your heals as Resto Druid are either very fast casts or they are instant casts. You have an awful lot of instant cast spells, so it gives you this wonderful sense of mobility as a healer. It's kind of like the opposite of, let's say, a Resto Shaman, which is loads of very, very slow casts. The Resto Druid is very quick, very mobile. And that feels wonderful. And for me, I also love going into cat form and cat weaving and stuff like that, or going into moonkin form and chicken weaving or owl weaving, whatever you want to call it. I think that is an absolutely wonderful sort of gameplay style that works, that synergizes so well with your heal over times, because you know that your heal over times are on the party. You're going to be free to go and do some damage, and I think that's awesome. It's just the core gameplay, I think, of the spec. It just flows very, very well. It's very satisfying, and of course you bring an absolutely immense amount of utility in Mythic Plus in particular. I mean, Resto Druid was pretty much the best healer for Mythic Plus for most of BFA. Obviously, like Holy Paladin did some good stuff, and Mistweaver did some good stuff in there. But Resto Druid was sort of like the consistent #1 pug healer. And I expect the same is going to be true. Like, they really haven't taken anything away. In fact, they've given you new stuff in Nature's Swiftness baseline for some instant healing. It's Cyclone being baseline and spammable, with Stampeding Roar being baseline. There's some really nice additions there that I think are going to make you even more attractive as that healer. So yeah, it's super fun. And in Mythic Plus, at least, you're going to be very strong. Again, in PvP, I think you got some really great options too, with stuff that builds into bear form, such as, you know, the new Heart of the Wild cooldown and some of the legendaries that are really going to enhance your defensive abilities through that. Touching on the legendaries, they're great as well, aren't they? You got some really wonderful ones as the Resto Druid. My favorites would probably be the general ones, actually, which again tie into that shape-shifting gameplay that are going to reward you for doing your shape-shifting well, either proccing some cool awesome spells like getting free Starfalls or Primal Rats, or again just using the Oath of the Elder Druid, and every 1 minute using your affinity form for a massive boost, either getting very tanky in bear form or doing loads of damage in your moonkin or cat form. I think that's wonderful playstyle, really, really good. There's just loads of good legendaries, so I think you'll have lots of options for ways to build this spec as well, which is great. And likewise, all of the Covenant abilities, I think, are quite appealing in their own way. I mean, the only real downside for Resto Druid I can think of is that when it comes to raids, some of that utility really isn't as useful in raids as it is in Mythic Plus. Your utility, your usefulness does fall off a bit there. You know, you're still a decent healer, but, you know, your heal over times, they can be sniped out a bit more by the other healers. You don't bring, you know, big raid-wide damage reduction abilities, or really powerful cooldowns like, you know, a Discipline Priest does or a Resto Shaman can do. So you do fall down a little bit there in the raiding situation. But, it's tough to give. I already feel like they gave Resto Druid maybe too much stuff, though. Like, I actually feel that because, you know, whenever you give them something to help them out in raiding, it's tough to not make them even more the #1 in Mythic Plus. So, I don't know. We'll see. But, yeah, it's a great spec. I'm very much considering, I think I'm almost guaranteed to run a Druid, I think, at this point in Shadowlands, having played the specs. I wasn't a massive fan of Feral, but I loved Balanced Druid, I loved Resto Druid, and I really enjoyed Guardian as well. So, you know, that's 3 specs fulfilling 3 different roles. I think that, you know, if I'm not maining a Druid, which I may not be able to do because, you know, Guild and Raid Team have specific needs, I think certainly this class jumps out to me as an amazing class to have as an alt. You just have a number of wonderful specs with a wonderful variety of builds to their legendaries. The Resto Druid fits into that perfectly. It's super, super good. So, yeah, big thumbs up for me on the Resto Druid. I think it's a fantastic playstyle. Really good. So much utility, so much mobility, instant casts. Love the heal over time stuff. Great variety. Yeah, it's fantastic. Guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed our look at the final healer here on the Shadowlands beta. I'll catch you next time to look at the rogues. See you all then. Bye-bye.